Welcome to the Audiation in the Wild podcast with your hosts, Beau Taillefer and Eric Rasmussen. Season 2, Episode 10, Melodies and Rhythms with and without words.
All right. So Eric, you were talking to me earlier about the subject of learning music with words, without words, the pros and cons of each approach. You know, the three approaches are use words, don't use words, or use both. Hopefully there's no side that says use none. But so where do you fall on this and what comes to mind?
All right. So generally when this topic is broached in the MLT community, it's about whether you should sing melodies, especially to infants and toddlers and even 3-year-olds, without words, and whether that's better than singing with words, because then the children can relate better to the musical elements of the melody that you're singing, or the chant that you're chanting. They're relating to the rhythms, and not the words to the rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
So typical, ba ba da be da ba bum ba ba bum ba da bum ba da ba da ba 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 ba, and there's a chant for the kids to just absorb. Right, pretty complicated. You don't think kids would repeat that back until, and when they're ready to repeat rhythms like that back, here's the thing. That I don't think is discussed as much, and I know it's been researched, but right now I don't care what the research says about it anymore, because I don't always trust. I mean, if it has been and it showed that it's better to teach rhythms in the long run without words. Oh my God, this is going to be complicated, because here's how it is in my world. This is what happened. And I went for it really hard. I made up some ridiculously hard rhythms for kindergarten and first grade. And pre-K and first grade. And of course I taught the same rhythms to kindergarten and second grade, just because they were ridiculously hard. But we were only going to study these two groups, so I treated them like they have to get these rhythms, and we only have 2 months to get there.
Okay.
And the reason is because the school that I was working for, or the program I was working in, had a huge grant, and they wanted to see what are we getting done, with their money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was hundreds of thousands of dollars every year.
Oh my!
It was ridiculous. Close to $1 million was before we even got started, and then some of that built up, and then they took it away and didn't pay me, and so I left. But
okay.
Despite this thing, so here's for 4-year-olds. I got ba 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 ba, and then ba ba da ba da ba 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 da ba da da da. Right? Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's another one. Ba-da-ba-ba-da, and these are the triple ones. I think there were 3 of each. And duple was, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. And I'm not sure that was right. It was pretty simple, straightforward. And there was, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. First. I was at the 5-8-1. There was another I think the odd meters were in the first grade. I can't remember them all. I wish I could find the sheet that was all on.
Yeah.
But I taught them those rhythms through songs, and I also just chanted the words to them. Butterflies are best because they fly all day long. I forget what the words were too. This is going back almost 8 years.
But the punchline here is
they were really ridiculously difficult, and
Yeah.
I had almost 100% on these rhythm patterns. because I had to teach them words to go to it because they weren't getting them without.
But you were also taking the words out. You did both.
Oh, I did both.
Yeah. So no one's saying cut stuff. No one's saying just do words. No, wordless.
Right.
Chants.
No. I did both, and I even tried to take the rhythm patterns from songs. Obviously from the meters of songs they already knew, and they already knew by kindergarten. By the middle of pre-K years, they knew all the tonalities and all the. This is crazy. They did sing in all the tonalities and all the meters within the first half year. So
yeah.
So and if you're not doing that, you're not singing enough in class.
Yeah.
In a general music classroom, it doesn't. If you're doing violin or something else, there's too many other things you got to take up the time to do. Technical teaching. How to hold the thing and all that. But
yeah.
The words put to these complicated rhythms made it so that the kids who are having a hard time copying those rhythms just made it easier for them. If you didn't do the words, these kids were probably not going to get those rhythms because they're complicated. And to this day, this is why it came up in our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I was, in fact, in the last episode, I shared this little Dorian ditty that without the words, I have a harder time getting the rhythm.
Sure.
I still want to trip up on it, right? But if I put the words to it, what is it? Ian and Jack, the kids who live next door. And then it's just so easy for me to do that. Ian and Jack, so I'm audiating the words when I do it, and it's easy. If I just do the rhythm and not audiate the words, I get mixed up. I just get mixed up. It's easier for me to rely on the words. And this is why there is such a thing as verbal association.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Except it's not do-daddy. It's do-bay, do-bay, do. Do-bay, do-bay, do. Right? Now I can't do it. I can't do it in verbal association because I haven't practiced it. Do-bobby, do-bay, do. Do-bay, do-bobby, do-bay, do. Do-bobby, do-bay, do.
Well, what's odd about this is that the words of the song, being separate, because if we go a hardcore verbal associate is what you're doing now, but the words of a song are kind of something you're saying along with the rhythm of the song. It's interesting. It almost acts as like a memory aid device, because I noticed this if I have students who want to learn a song but they already know the lyrics to that song. When I teach them that song by rote on the guitar or the piano, they learn it so fast. Because I just break things down into the way the rhythm patterns and the words line up in the song. And I think what may be going on here too, that's important to bring up, the kids can sing the song on their own with the words very easily, and that might be contributing to their review of these things at times. If they have a song they can sing, and they do that a few times in between the music lesson, that starts building up, after years of lessons. It really does. Yeah.
So in terms of rhythm understanding and rhythm audiation and rhythm skills, learning those rhythms is easier when you do both.
Sure.
And you want to find out if there's kids that can do it without learning words. That's great. You're getting deeper into the audiation, I think. But when something is easier to do, I think that's valuable. Now let's go back and cover the tracks before that. So this is talking about pre-K and up. Now the question would be, to me, becomes when you're in that age range, is it better to do that and the strict verbal associates, with Gordon rhythm syllables, along with the words, and then also along with our oral patterns, and of course along with repertoire that includes some of those rhythms or the basis for many of those rhythms, if not the exact rhythms themselves.
I think it would be useful.
Right? So right? But your rhythm vocabulary can go way beyond early, it can go way beyond what the repertoire, because to make things musical, you don't want to have that much complexity. So give them complex rhythms in short bites so that they're ahead of what they're going to learn, maybe, right? So that would be interesting,
Yeah,
like
that's
the
a good
combination of all three. Now, go back, I'm not saying to babies and toddlers and even some 3-year-olds that that you should not, I'm not saying you should not teach songs without words. Absolutely, teach songs without words all the way through. In fact, older children too.
Sure.
Give them that opportunity. But there's a cost to it when you get into later childhood, 3 and 4-year-olds, because they think things are funny by then. 2-year-olds, I like doggy song. I want doggy song. Right? They can have some, right? Some.
Sorry.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Because the song's about a dog. I want doggy song. Doggy. I have a kid that just asks for 2 little kitty cats all the time. 2 kitties? 2 kitties? Can I have kitties? She just insists on this every week. And so by this time I say the right way or the wrong way.
I love that.
And she always says the right way. And the other kids say, no, I want to hear it the wrong way. I said, do you want it this way or that way? And I play, tonic dominant in one thing and subdominant tonic in another thing. And they get to pick which way they want to hear it. So they're getting that partial synthesis, the variety that I like, that we talked about a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's big. But I think it's really important and I tell parents, Twinkle Twinkle, you sing these things, you bounce and rock your child at home, before they go to sleep and that kind of thing. Please take away the words. It's not that the words are bad, because they help you to sing and be expressive with the content of the song, but yeah, there's real validity in singing, and chanting pieces that are, chants and melodies that are, without words. There's so much value in that. But like I said, in this circumstance specifically, when I'm trying to teach a rhythm that's difficult, having funny words to go with them, butterflies. I wish I could. I just wish I could remember some of them because they were really kind of fun, and made the kids perk up. So that's my research on it, and I will not agree with anybody who says it should be otherwise. Because there's some kids that just were having such a hard time, and when I added the words to it, became easier.
What I'd like to see,
would have gotten easier for them to do verbal association. I don't think so, because verbal association too hard for their mouths at the pre-K level. So verbal association aren't words, right? Mm-hmm. Words are different. Words evoke meaning, and there is no meaning in the verbal associates. They're just placekeepers.
Yeah, there's no linguistic meaning. They're just a pointer to what the musical, content is. Yeah,
you're adhering the rhythm that they can already audiate at the oral level, right?
I think a very interesting experiment to do that is based off of what you just described to us. Take 3 classes and teach a couple songs, only with the words, and then with the words and without words, and then just without the words, but use the same number of listening exposures for all the groups. So if they all get to listen to something 10 times, one does 5 with the words, 5 without the words, one does all words, one does no words. We'd have to get the right number of trials. 10 might not be the number. We might try 60 trials over the course of weeks and see who actually can just perform the best at the end, whether it's with words or without words. I bet you the combo group would do best based on all this induction stuff. But
yeah, you'd think so. And there are these studies out there, and I'm at this point, I've read them before, but to me it was about the kids I had in front of me, and maybe the study was wrong, or maybe the study's right and I didn't give it an opportunity. But in this case, this was me having run a few studies in my life and trying to really impress the people with the grant money and the people that were that hired me and all that. I wanted to go whole hog, and I was encouraged to, so I did, and the kids were amazing. And when I came time to test them, I said, ba ba da bee da ba 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 da ba. Ba da ba 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 da ba ba da ba ba. I can't remember. I wish I could remember. It's so driving me crazy. I'm so close. It's right there. But I would just go down the row. I'd do it once for the kid at the end, and I'd go the next kid, one after the other, and then if a kid couldn't come in on the macro beat or on the pickup, then I would say it again, and then they would go, and I would go right down the row again until somebody lost it, because everybody did it at a, on a scale of 1 to 5, everybody did it at least at a 4 level, except maybe 2 kids in the school.
Yeah, that's pretty solid results.
So yeah, and then I sent those video recordings I made of those students to a second researcher and had her rate the kids too, so I got validity in terms of how far they, so I did basically a t-test which compares groups. It was a what do you call it, a t-test where you use samples that are related samples t-test, because they're the same kids, and then comparing those kids against each other and the growth that the class had. So you're not comparing 2 different classes, right?
They've done interesting ones with exercise where they'll get someone to do like a certain program for their right leg, and then they'll compare like a couple weeks later a program to the left leg, so you get within subject.
Yep.
Because there's so many different genetic differences and like how fast people can gain muscle and what they're eating and all that stuff. But if you standardize it to one person, it kind of eliminates a lot of the problems, unless you have twins. It gets rid of the need for identical twins.
Yeah, and then separate them at birth.
Yeah, those are pretty wild. But, natural experiments. So
that's my thought on that. And there's also some, and you might be able to speak to this better than me, is how Jim Jordan, when he was on our podcast, talked about, audiating diction, combining that with the melody and combining that with the words.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about
how
that.
Those things happen, and tonal and rhythm, right? We're taxing the...
Well, because we have these different things going on when we're hearing melody, we're hearing melodic rhythm as well as diction when they're singing going on with it. But some students seem to have the ability, without any seeming training, even though it's probably just developed informally, to when something is sung to them, they can extract the rhythm out and not pay attention to the words. And they can do the reverse. If someone plays a familiar rhythm pattern, familiar piece of melodic rhythm from repertoire they know, they can recognize what song that is. So they're doing a type of identification there. But it's like when you have diction involved with melodic rhythm and melody, when you have diction involved with melody, there's these different skill sets of being able to pull them apart and combine them back together. And basically what we're talking about is people don't have a dependable way to train that. Some students seem to develop the ability through enough singing, but I think a great strategy is playing around with adding diction, taking diction out. It might even be useful to say the words of the song without a meter, so that the students really understand that the diction is something different than the rhythm entirely. I think that's what James is getting at. But we didn't really talk about it for very long, but I've thought of that a little bit. And at least anecdotally, Eric, my experience with teaching people how to play melodies by rote on instruments is greatly accelerated when they know the diction and the proper rhythm of the song. So they can sing the song, they can sing the melodic rhythms that are in the song with diction. They generally can learn the song on their instrument by rote faster. And so I'd love to see someone disprove that, because in my experience it's so powerfully obvious that it is more. But what we're really talking about here is maybe these... diction helps memory retention over time, because if you sing the song over 4 weeks or 8 weeks, maybe the diction and the story of the song is helping them remember the literal rhythm patterns.
I'm sure when you attach it to the story of the song that there's a bigger whole than the melody, and even with the harmony. And
that's another potential flaw I see in the research. What was the time period for the acquisition of the musical content? Was it one lesson, or because we're talking months of singing these songs to students, right? So there might be different influences at play. And I can gauge how well someone's going to learn something by rote on an instrument just by how well they know the diction of the songs in a lot of cases. If their aptitude is normal, or what seems like normal, like they have no deficit in learning musical stuff quickly. If they really know the song, like they can sing it, holy smokes, they just start plowing through it by rote. So there's something about the instrumental. A lot of great jazz musicians, for example, have reported that if they learn the lyrics to the standards they learn, something about the melody, both tonally and rhythmically, gets glued in a better way.
Oh yeah, instrumentalists that play a melody where the phrase isn't ended yet, and they put a break in there because they don't know the lyrics. That bothers me.
So I've given this to songwriting students before who are air quote instrumentalists, like they just want to do that side of it, like maybe they want to make video game music. My challenge to them is write a song that has lyrics, but you only play it instrumentally, but you should hear the lyrics while you play it. And man, their playing sounds better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, there's more meaning there besides the musical elements that you can add to it, of course. And by the way, given what I said about, or what we've already said about diction and tonal and rhythm, understanding and harmonic understanding, with regard to singing when you talk about diction, you really at a middle school level, at least, probably high school, of course, and further, I defer completely and wholeheartedly to the work that Jim Jordan has done, especially the Inside the Choral Rehearsal.
Oh yeah.
Book that we featured a little bit on podcast way early.
And it was great to have his thoughts because, I don't think about lyrics and diction very much because I am doing something else, focusing on MLT for guitar mainly and for a bit for piano. But someone who spent that much time thinking about it, it's just fascinating to see, how his mind has solved that issue.
And he's one of the few people that really has deep criticism for some of the things, and deep love, as we all do, for Dr. Gordon's work. He just says he's wrong here.
Sure.
And the syllable to use to sing in tune and all that kind of stuff that he's found over all these years applying. There's nobody that loves Dr. Gordon more for his work and personally. He has that real sense of connection with him. There's some strong, some fairly certain disagreement that I lean to his side than what was initially brought up by Dr. Gordon as a more scientific way to teach.
For sure. I think and that's a good point about, whenever we're criticizing, especially like in Gordon's direction, Jesus.
I know, but I feel like I always have to say it because...
Yeah, it's like we're in Gordon's country, but we're saying, well, this cappuccino should be a little different than, this thing. But we're really like in his kingdom. Like, so yeah. And I mean, no disrespect. And I think that shows a kind of interest in his work beyond like the man himself, is that the work is so valid that it's worth to still talk about and adjust and say, well, this could be a little more like that. But we're just going deeper into the subject.
But why do not more people like come to the work? It's crazy to me that there's such resistance to it if you belong to a different tribe, and I think there's even resistance to it within the tribe sometimes that I think is undue. Mm-hmm. Although I don't know, that's for people to figure it out. I just want to keep messing with my children.
That's why it's good to remember that a tribe can very naturally build out of something like MLT, because it's a whole philosophy around how to teach music. It gets so specific, and so this like in-group out-group thing can very easily develop. And that's why I wanted to partly focus on the podcast of not just kind of strict MLT in terms of what Gordon said, but well, how does that stack up with how really good musicians who know nothing about this are learning music? Because they probably have something worthwhile to say, and we can bounce back and forth. And sometimes people are just doing stuff that I just straight up disagree with, but it's interesting to at least have a discussion about it. Because I mean, we're all living a pretty good life. We're music teachers. I mean, we might want to make more money or have more success in projects or whatever it is, but I mean, we're teaching music. It's a sweet job, and if you get good at teaching music, you can have a pretty fun career, right? I mean,
yep,
it's a great
yep,
time.
Love it to pieces.
All right. Well,
All right.
I think that's good. I think we defended both sides well enough. My integrity is still online.
We need some after the partial synthesis conversation, probably.
Yeah. I really like the idea of A/B testing, you know, just having a couple, because it can be small numbers. You could have 9 students and just send 3 of them off in one direction, 3 in another, 3 in another. See what happens.
Yeah, there needs to be more research done by more people, because in their circumstances, you know, there's different context in music education, probably in a few different countries or different areas of our country or whatever. So,
All right, Eric. Till next time.
Alrighty.